Hello, everyone. It is so wonderful to be here. I'm so excited. Wow. So, hello. My name is Brandon Ballengée. I'm both an artist and a biologist. As a biologist, I'm a frog guy working in the fish lab at LSU. As an artist, I'm constantly inspired by nature, but also trying to figure out what that means in a moment when all of this nature is disappearing, when we're living in the middle of this mass extinction event. And for my creative capital project, it's called Searching for Ghosts of the Gulf. And really what it's about is exploring missing species from the Gulf of Mexico with coastal communities that are themselves endangered. So, as some of you all might recall, we had a little oil spill in 2010, right? But it all got cleaned up, right? And that's what this guy said. Well, kind of, sort of, maybe. Actually, about half of the 200 million gallons of oil remains in the Gulf today. So we still don't really know what that means for the ecosystems, for the species that are there, or for the residents that are eating them. So we're still trying to figure that out. One thing I want you all to repeat after me. The Gulf of Mexico is our Amazon rainforest. Can you do that? The Gulf of Mexico is our Amazon rainforest, okay? It's the home for tens of thousands of species. Tens of millions of people rely on that food. So when that stuff is mixing with the food chain and it starts to unravel it potentially, we should all be worried. So as an artist and a biologist, like a lot of my work has dealt with the biodiversity in the Gulf of Mexico since the 2010 spill. So this is one response called collapse, which is really kind of dealing with that idea of what happens if the food chain starts to unravel. And this was shown in 2012 at Ronald Feldman Fine Arts in New York. And Ron, I can't see anything because of the lights, but I want to just say I love you and Freda. Thank you so much for taking a chance and showing a piece like this. So it was really 26,000 preserved specimens. Let me tell you, that's easy to install, by the way. But the point with this is really kind of to make a memorial to the billions of life forms that were lost and the billions of lives that have been impacted from that one singular catastrophe. So in 2015, I had the opportunity to become the PI for an interdisciplinary arts, science, and outreach team, which focused on trying to figure out what the state of endemic fishes was in the Gulf of Mexico following the spill. Endemic means they're fish that are found nowhere else on the planet, just in the Gulf of Mexico. And what we found is several have been missing. And to kind of get this message to the public, we created a portable art science museum, which traveled all over the place. And what was great about it is it really kind of was an olive branch to oil field workers, politicians, and other folks, people who fish and shrimpers. So it allowed me to start to build this kind of rich network of folks that I can turn to ask questions. And while I was doing this research, we noticed that it wasn't just since the spill. There's like 14, 13 that are missing since the spill. But actually, there's several others. Almost half of the endemics have become missing over recent decades. And the ones that, several of those, we don't really know very much about. So that's really when I started this idea of searching for ghosts of the Gulf. As you can tell, this is a super glamorous job. I'm sure you realize that skate smells really good after it's been sitting in, like formaldehyde for 20 years. Anyway, you can come join me. But anyway, so searching for ghosts of the Gulf is really my newest project and my creative capital project, and it involves intertwining three different components. And basically, one of them is organizing these things that I call eco-actions. And what these actions are, they're field investigations, but they're a way to really activate community members, right? By letting them be the investigators, by letting the kids do the science, by letting the public do the science, and also create art. And then as we're out there, start to talk about more complicated socio-ecological problems that we're facing. And in this safe space, start to talk to oil field workers who are concerned about climate change. Right? So to complement these field actions, I've started to create these portraits of some of the missing species. So these are either X-rays so far, some are paintings that I'm using the crude oil itself from the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. And the intention with these is it's really to give a form to these ghosts, right? If they're extinct or not, we don't know, but to somehow give them a visual representation, a form again. And then what I do with these is I'm creating a portable version of Collapse to go on the road, literally. So taking these portraits and making pop-up exhibitions all around the coast, but specifically in rural areas where folks don't have a lot of access to art and science. And so in addition to my work, also the scientific findings and artwork that people make along the way will kind of be included in this traveling exhibition. So, and it's going to take place at super great unconventional venues like fishing marinas and during fishing rodeos and blessing of the fleet ceremonies. That's when people go out to go shrimping for the first time in the year. They get blessed by a priest and there's a big parade. And so that's just a few of the places, public schools and libraries. You can see this guy on the right, he's taking a selfie with a deep sea isopod. So these folks are at the forefront for climate change, right? So these are endangered communities. Yet because basically the only work to be found in these areas is for the oil and gas industry, it's really tricky to talk about environmental issues. It's really tricky to start talking about the oil spill again and again. And so what I found is like art and science is a really good way to connect to these communities and create these safe spaces for communication. Secondly, I just want to throw this out there. How many of you all feel connected to these people, to these communities? Let me see your hands, a few of you. Well, think about it like this. How did we get here? The oil that we used to get here, these folks probably extracted it. The seafood that we eat from the Gulf, they probably fished it. So we're really, really connected. Somehow, I'll talk about it in a second, but there's other issues we face too. Sea level rise, poverty, access to clean drinking water. We have horrible science and art education just in general. So trying to come up with this project is really at a grassroots level trying to figure out ways that we can start to address those creatively with the community. So I'm trying to organize formal and informal venues to continue and spread this message to larger populations. And what I need is simple, just $100 billion, right? So that's probably what it might take to clean up the Gulf from the spill, but we probably can't do it anyway. But I do actually need a little bit more monetary support, but we can talk about that later. And some in-kind support. I also need a pirate ship. Seriously, if you know anybody with maritime vessels, that's really expensive. But my last real ask is I need you all. I want your creativity to come down. I want your love. I want you to come down, work with me with these communities. I want you to help us envision a future where we're going to survive. We're going to find some of these fish. We're going to figure out strategies to be able to stay at home. So I thank you all so very much. Creative Capital and everyone. Thank you.